expressed on the following program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership.
Arizona, this is Brother Mike back on the radio. Welcome to HardcoreChristianity.com. May God richly bless you. Thanks for tuning in today. The Wicca Murders on tap for today's radio broadcast. Would you call somebody and tell them the radio program's on? The Wicca Murders are on. Yeah, you need to hear this. Sure you do. I'll make some announcements on the website, and we'll get right into it. This is Brother Mike. I'm the counselor at the House of Healing. We're on 11th Street, just south of Indian School Road and west of the 51 freeway and east of the VA Hospital in downtown Phoenix. On the website, hardcorechristianity.com, all of our services are listed there. Wednesday night, 7 o'clock is our midweek service for healing, teaching, and deliverance. Thursday nights are individual and personal prayer for each person who comes for healing and deliverance. Friday nights, my teaching service for my radio listeners. We are not at the Church of God anymore. We're back at the House of Healing, 6:30 p.m. Friday night. I'll see you there. While you're on the website, please remember to sign up for our teaching channel on YouTube and our Facebook channel and sign up for a free seminar. Also, if you're thinking of selling your home and listing it, hey, why not list it and get reduced fees? Why pay more? Go to the front page of the website at the bottom and hit the West USA Realty button, and why not save a bunch of money? Go ahead and do it. Who wants to pay more? Wicca Murders. Oh, man, did you see this in the paper? Boy, this thing's getting ugly. The Bible teaches that witchcraft is going to suddenly, miraculously, supernaturally start spreading all around the planet. And the reason for that is, in not too many years from now, and I really believe that my kids and for sure my grandkids will see the rapture and the tribulation. I mean, this thing's winding down for sure. It's getting very, very close. But before this happens, the planet's going to switch over to witchcraft. It's the biggest thing that's ever going to hit the world. The rise of the false prophet is the key to the power held by the Antichrist during the tribulation. And he and the Antichrist, of course, are going to be killed at the second coming of Christ. And this thing's going to play out very, very shortly. Very, very shortly. And when I mean by killed, I don't mean physically killed. I mean killed by being thrown in the lake of fire. And Wicca is part of this process. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Wicca today. Wicca is a strange witchcraft religion. It's not really totally witchcraft, and it's not really totally religion. And here's why. The cult was invented in 1954 by a guy named Gerald Gardner. He was a civil servant in Great Britain. After he retired, he developed this religion, and for some reason this thing caught on. And it's kind of based on a bunch of ancient pagan ceremonies and concepts. It's got all kinds of 20th century motifs for theological material and structure. They've got a lot of ritualistic practices. But in our English, and in the Old English and in modern English, the words witch and wizard come from this word, Wicca. And basically the religion revolves around worshiping a moon goddess and a horned god. The moon goddess is female, the horned god is male. The problem with Wicca is it's a hard cult to follow, because unlike, let's say, the Moonies, unlike the Mormons, unlike the Jehovah's Witnesses and other satanic cults, they don't have central figures, and they don't have a center that they work out on. There's so many different sects in Wicca that it's hard to keep track of, and there's no real consistency with the religion. The religion has no real consistency like you would find in a church denomination like Methodists and Baptists and Episcopals and what have you, where they have, let's say, their creeds or this is what we believe list. Wiccas fluctuate depending on what sect of Wicca you are with. Some Wiccas do not worship a personal God. They worship kind of a universal energy, very much like an Eastern religion. Other Wicca sects do worship a personal God, and the moon goddess and the horn god are real gods for them. And like any other religion, they have all kinds of celebrations. Basically their celebrations follow around the cycles of the moon. And they have festivals and feasts, and they have Sabbaths, the usual, very much like Judaism. They have different things that they celebrate, but some sects of Wicca are murderous, and some sects are extremely sensual. Some sects of Wicca have ritualistic worship activities that include nudity and orgies. Some sects of Wicca require sacrifices and require human sacrifices. Now, those sects that do that are usually in the smaller percentage of the religion. But check it out. In Pensacola recently, one of these sects of Wicca, the one that requires sacrifices and requires death to their god, manifested in Pensacola, Florida, a couple of weeks ago. Did you see this article? Quote, a triple homicide in Florida is suspected to be a Wiccan ritual killing related to the blue moon, police said. The 3 victims, all from the same family, were found after a welfare check on Friday, July 31st, said Escambia County Sheriff's Office spokesman Sergeant Andrew Hobbs. Quote, it appears that this might be connected to some type of Wiccan ritual killing and possibly tied to the blue moon. A blue moon is what's called when there are 2 full moons in the same calendar month. The article goes on to say Von Seal Smith, age 77, and her 2 sons, Richard, 49, John, 47, were discovered when one of the sons' employers realized he hadn't shown up for work. Von Seal Smith and John both died of blunt force trauma and had their throats cut. Richard was shot in the ear and had his throat cut. Police believe a claw hammer was used to commit the murders. No evidence of forcible entry was found. They have a person of interest on the case. No arrests have been made. When asked how the evidence suggests that these ritualistic or Wiccan killings occurred, Sergeant Hobbs said the injuries to the victim and the positions of the bodies, and also the person of interest right now, is a Wiccan practitioner. It says, quote, Wiccan is a religion that claims to draw on the pre-Christian traditions of Western Europe, and while most practitioners engage in some form of magical practice and nature worship, they may believe in a variety of deities. The religion does not encourage the practice of ritual killings. The number of Americans who identify as a Wiccan has risen from about 8,000 in 1990 to 350,000 in 2008. Now that's a pretty large percent of growth. There's no question about that. But the article goes on to say how the people were killed and what time they think they were killed and so on. But the way the bodies were positioned and the way they were left appears to be related to the Wiccans. And what America is not understanding, we just don't get it in this country. They do get it in other countries. This kind of a mass murder or family murder wouldn't have been a surprise in, let's say, Africa or South America. These countries have long since been exposed to familiar spirits and demons, and they're very familiar with satanic cults, spiritualism, voodoo, and all other forms of witchcraft. Here in America, we have been trained basically from a scientific model and an evolutionary model where there really is no spirit world. In academia, they do not believe in a spirit world here in America. It's the strangest thing ever. because the vast majority of people do believe in the spirit world. Statistically, there's probably less than 3% of the population that are atheists or agnostics. The vast majority of people in the United States believe in the spirit world. And almost every survey you see, most of the people believe God exists. Very, very few of them believe there's a devil. But if there is a God, and then in almost every survey they also say they believe in heaven. And then most people don't believe in hell for the obvious reasons. I mean, they want to believe in the good and they don't want to think about the bad. But what's going to happen here as we head toward the end of the dispensation of grace and enter the tribulation, and as we head toward the rapture, you're going to see a dramatic boost in witchcraft and spiritualism in this country. It's already happening on satellite disc and cable TV. Every single night, without an exception, there's a rack of movies and television shows now that deal with spirits and demons and the spirit world and killings and murders and cults. Literally 7 days a week. You can't get on satellite cable or satellite dish or cable and not be able to find a show. I mean, there's a movie playing, there's a TV show playing constantly, and this is going to accelerate as we head toward the end. Witchcraft is a horrible, evil sin in the eyes of God. It is extremely dangerous to be involved in any form of witchcraft, including games, light as a feather, Ouija boards, Charlie, any type of spiritual activity that's not related to the Holy Ghost is extremely dangerous because it opens the door from familiar spirits. And these familiar spirits get into people's bodies and they start to take control of their mind, and eventually they make them physically ill or mentally ill. If you feel you've been infected with a familiar spirit, you've been exposed to witchcraft, you're eligible for free counseling services at the House of Healing, 602-636-5800. There is nothing I can think of more dangerous than witchcraft in American society. These Wicca people are all deceived and they're all infected with demons, and they're going to pay a hideous and horrible price for being involved in the spirit world in that manner. In the Old Testament, it was so severe, Jehovah would have them executed. You don't have to be executed. You can receive mercy and free counseling. Take it.
The views expressed on the preceding program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership. This program has been sponsored by Michael W. Smith.